Hey guys, Bike here. It's been about a week, well, not quite, since I uploaded a video here to YouTube. I've actually just been playing the game and streaming on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/babblingBike. And in the last video I uploaded, I was going over the build I was using for this season. I titled it My Seasonal Journey So Far. And we went over the build. It was a Hammer of the Ancients walking arsenal build. And then in a video I uploaded after that, it was me using the build running through a Capstone dungeon. The Capstone dungeon specifically to get into World Tier 3, the Cathedral of Light. Well, I'm getting ready to run Fallen Temple. That is the Capstone dungeon to get into World Tier 4. And I decided I was going to do the same thing. I was going to show off my build, and then I'll do another upload, same fashion, where I'll be going through the dungeon. So that way, if all you want to do is just see the build, you're good to go. You can watch this video, see what I'm doing with the build, and then you're on your way. If you want to see it in action, it'll be in another video. Link will be in the description down below. So, quick little story time. The backstory to this whole build is, you probably saw it in the title, it is a Whirlwind build. I was playing, as I said previously, a Hoda walking arsenal build. The reason why I trashed the Hoda walking arsenal build is I got frustrated. I got into World Tier 3 and I was just getting absolutely trounced. I was getting destroyed, and I was still making it work, but then one evening I decided I wanted to go chill out in the bedroom, my wife, talk, hang out, just, not really do anything too extraneous, and play a little off stream. And I got an Xbox in there, Xbox Series X, and so I'm playing with a controller, and the build was so hard to play on controller because it was really hard to pinpoint who I was going to last hit with Death Blow in that build. In a moment of anger, I trashed everything, went Whirlwind. Been having fun ever since. Works really well on controller, works really well on mouse and keyboard. So, another little backstory is, in the preseason, I played Druid all the way to level 100, and then I played Barbarian all the way to 75, and then Season 1 started. So, with the Whirlwind build, I was using a website, maxroll.gg, for the build, not sponsored, and I followed the guide for their in-game Whirlwind build up until about, level 75. And so I went back, and they had completely changed the build to be a Whirlwind with a hammer, which in hindsight, maybe that might have been the way to go. But since I already had an idea that I was going to be using a sword and doing all the bleed damage and getting the, damage reduction, all that from bleeding, I decided to go with it and kind of fit in my own stuff and kind of go off script. So that's how we got here. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead, check out the build, and then, like I said previously, after seeing the build, I'll have the video uploaded. We will be running through Fallen Temple, and we'll see how that goes. So let's get into it. All right, we are going to start off with the gear. So as you guys can probably see, my little guy right here, there is frost on the ground. Yes, I'm using those boots. No, they are not super optimal, but there is a reason. There is a reason. So we'll start with the helm. I prioritized armor and cooldown reduction, or just some form of damage reduction. I will be going over the build with a fine-tooth comb once I get into World Tier 4 and we're getting ancestrals and equipping best in slot, that sort of thing. I just wanted something to make it work. I threw on Grasping Whirlwind. This is a great aspect. It pulls enemies into you, really helps keep up your fury generation. Having a good time. Yes, I'm using Rage of Herogoth. I may be swapping this one out during the run. I do have a armor piece with damage reduction. I also got the aspect that gives you Fortify for every point of fury spent or generated while at max fury. It's really good, helps you stay alive, but this one right here, your shouts have a quicker uptime. I probably will not be using this in the end game, but it's been a great unique for the mid game, which is kind of where we're at right now. Yes, I'm using those gloves. The reason why, I don't know. I just thought they would be cool. They had a really high crit chance. I do extra damage to not to frozen enemies, but the freeze duration and the extra cold damage, they pair really well with those boots. And so I threw them on there, and I didn't really notice the damage decrease. In fact, I think I noticed the damage increase. So for right now, just because we're in the mid game, I'm going to keep using these gloves. Eventually, they will be swapped out with something else in the future. Got the pants. With this one, I tried to prioritize some sort of damage reduction, armor, and I also got some ranks in Warcry, which is one of our shouts. Again, this is not going to be a final thing. I don't even have gem slots on my gear. I'm saving all my material for once we get into World Tier 4. And the boots, Penitent Greaves. Yeah, I'm using those boots. They had a max roll on the movement speed. They have pretty decent slow down or slow duration reduction. So, you know, those little fly guys, it doesn't really hit you as much. And you got cold resistance, but resistances are not all that great. The main reason why I use them is it leaves a trail of frost and it slows enemies. One of the major nerfs to barbarians was the hamstring nerf, and these now give us a way to constantly proc slow. On top of it, the movement speed was really nice. We moved pretty quick with this. So I noticed my damage was a lot more consistent and higher since I went to these boots instead of finding a pair of boots with like fury cost reduction, movement speed, that sort of thing. I do miss the fury cost reduction, but so far these boots have been great for me. The hammer, this is just, again, another filler piece until I can find something else in World Tier 4. I threw on the basic imprint, the dire Whirlwind imprint, the one that your critical strike chance goes up the longer you're whirlwinding. It's nice. I do have a max roll, but I'm saving that aspect for when I get into World Tier 4. Now for these swords, I found them, or they had somewhat decent stats. I didn't even really bother upgrading them. My damage has been doing pretty good. This one, I'm going with the Dust Devils. It was a really high roll, 666. I thought that was really nice. Threw that on there. The damage, at least in the mid game, is not too bad, and it's kind of cool to see the little twisters going off in all different directions. It helps with your AoE. So I kept it, but I'll probably be swapping it out for something in the future. This was a max roll. I decided to keep it because the stats of the blade itself were not too bad. You know, you have vulnerable damage, you had all stats, strength. The only one if I wanted to take a chance on re-rolling, would be the core skill damage, try and get like critical strike damage. But again, I really want to be getting into the nitty gritty when I get into World Tier 4. I didn't even bother throwing anything on the sword. I just found something with some decent stats. I rolled it like once and got 101 strength. Kept it, left it, bye. I found this amulet early on, and I thought it was somewhat decent. The damage reduction from enemies that are bleeding and the +2 ranks to heavy-handed I thought was a nice touch. So I'm going to roll with this until, you guessed it, World Tier 4. I actually wasn't even going to change my reins all that much. Like, this one's still like a basic one, but it had critical strike chance and vulnerable damage. But jewelry, I feel like, is a little bit harder to swap out this season because of the sockets. If you're used to using certain hearts and you got a good heart, you're a lot less likely to swap out your jewelry, as is the case here. I don't think I've found a single brutal heart with anything higher than this 18.5 damage suppression. So I'm just rocking this until World Tier 4. I've been clearing through content. I've already cleared, like, I think we cleared Nightmare Tier 18 or something with this, which is around level 70 with affixes. So I thought I might be ready for this dungeon right here. So let's go. And this was an upgrade that I couldn't pass up. Had critical strike chance, critical strike damage, vulnerable damage, and maximum fury. This was a great rain. I will probably be using this rain well into World Tier 4 until I can find a replacement. Jewelry is a lot easier to hold on to, especially when you've already broken the... what do they call it? The breakpoints. I've already broken the breakpoints, so this is as high as these affixes can go. And the only other thing you'd be getting is more resistances, and resistances are a tad bit broken. So yeah, that is the gear, and now we are going to be jumping into the skills. I will try and be brief, but I am not very brief in nature. Sorry for that. And let's go. So we're going with lunging strike. Sadly, I feel like basic skills are not all that great, and so we just like just about every barbarian build go with lunging strike because of the mobility, the ability to reposition. That's all it's really used for. It's also nice because you can kind of stack up some bleeding damage on some enemies. That's a nice little help, but yeah, on the lucky hit chance of 50% is pretty nice. It helps with Rage of Haragoth when you're attacking those elites. We're going with Whirlwind. This is the one downside to using the Frostburn gloves. You don't get extra ranks in Whirlwind, but like I said, my damage hasn't really changed too much, so I'm still rocking it. So we got Whirlwind. Obviously, we're going with Enhanced Whirlwind for that Fury generation, and you have to take it if you want to upgrade Whirlwind anymore. And Furious Whirlwind. Using the slashing weapon, 40% of the damage is dealt as bleeding. This can get pretty nutty. We're going with Pressure Point. Your core skills have up to a 30% chance to make enemies vulnerable, which is very nice. Rallying Cry and Tactical Rallying Cry for the extra fury and the fury generation. Challenging Shout and Tactical Challenging Shout. This is even more fury generation. War Cry, we don't really put as many points into this one. We just usually try and get 1 point. It's another shout to add to your arsenal. It gives you the berserking. I happen to have a few extra ranks because of my gear, and we went with if there's at least 6 enemies nearby, you get an extra 10% damage. Pretty nice. We buffed shouts all the way up. All these points, I feel like any shout build uses that. Now this one right here is a personal choice. I think most would probably take away this hamstring. Yes, I know I'm still got 1 point in hamstring. I just, in case my little frost thing hasn't caught up with me yet, I just wanted to be able to apply slow right away. And it only lasts while they're healthy, and by that point I usually got frost on them by that point. This is just a little buffer, but most people would probably, most people probably wouldn't be doing what I'm doing right now, but they would probably be taking this hamstring off, putting 1 point into thick skin, take the 3 points off of swiftness, and putting it into counter offensive. One reason why I'm not doing that is A, I'm not really generating fury at the moment, and B, I also like to be fast. So that's the only reason why I did it. It's a personal preference, and that's a great thing about a game like Diablo. You can customize. Next, we took aggressive resistance. Gain 3% damage reduction while berserking. I only put 1 point in there because this is what I really want. While berserking, fury generation is 18%. I like it a lot. Glad to have it. Next, we got No Mercy. You have 9% increased critical strike chance against immobilized, stunned, or slowed enemies. The chill does apply slow, so this helps out a lot. And then we put 1 point into Pit Fighter. This gives us just a tad bit of damage reduction and a little bit more damage. My main goal was getting over here. Heavy-handed. I got 2 ranks on my amulet right now. While using two-handed weapons, or when uses two-handed weapons, we deal 25% increased critical strike damage. It's very nice. I like it a lot. Then we got Wrath of the Berserker. This is, I'm not going to say you're, oh snap, get me out of jail free card, but it can work like that. It grants you unstoppable, increases your fury generation. You go berserk. If you deal damage with a basic skill, you add an extra 5 seconds to your berserking. You get the increased movement speed. It's a great one. You don't really get to use it like every encounter just because of the high cooldown, but I still think it is a great addition to the arsenal, because most of the time with Whirlwind you try and activate all your stuff and then just spin to win. That's why I like it. It's simple. And finally, our keystone is Unbridled Rage. Core skills deal 135% increased damage. It's a lot of damage, but it costs 100% more fury. So this entire build, the way it's set up, is you're just trying to generate as much fury as possible so you can keep spinning longer to win. Paragon. So I'm only level 62, so I don't have much on here. I will be going over my glyphs and which board I took, but that's gonna be about it. You guys, great thing about the Paragon board, completely it's customizable. So let's start. I went for maximum life, plus it gives you that extra 100 armor. It's nice. This one's going to be controversial. I did not use exploit. As of right now, I am not using the exploit glyph. The reason why: skills that critically strike generate 3 fury. My reasoning is I can be spinning longer if I'm getting more fury. Thus, over time, that's probably going to be dealing more damage than a more upfront damage. It's probably going to be controversial with people who know Barbarian. Nonetheless, I chose this one over exploit. I will be using the exploit glyph, but I'm going to be waiting for that. I wanted to be able to spin longer and, yeah, generate more fury. Instead of damage reduction or the 200 armor and 10 strength, actually that's a lot. 200 armor. I might come back for that. That is insane. Holy. I went for the 20% extra physical damage. Yeah. Side note, in the future, I will be grabbing that. That's a lot of armor. Holy smokes. Okay. We're getting up here. We are using the Blood Rage board. This one is killing a bleeding enemy. Has a 10% chance to grant berserking. You get a lot of extra bonuses while you're berserking. Let's go over them real quick. So berserking grants 25% increased damage and 15% increased movement speed. Lasts up to 5 seconds. So you have a 10% chance when a bleeding enemy is killed to have berserking. That's huge. Plus it goes hand in hand with our little passive over here. We get more fury generation when we're berserking. So yeah, keep that snowball going. For the glyph, I'm using the Martial glyph. This helps with the cooldown on our shouts. Helps us keep them up a lot more often. Even with Rage of Haragoth, it's nice to have these here. There's been times where I was able to pull together a pack of mobs, and there's like 2 elites in there. Just going between the both of them, that Rage of Haragoth keeps getting procced. Using these, I was just able to keep my shouts up, and I never stopped spinning. It was nuts. I loved it. Rare node, 8% damage reduction from enemies that are bleeding. I might not have taken this before, but now on the Paragon board, I'm trying to grab a little extra damage reduction. Like what I realized with this armor, that was a live reaction right there. So, I mean, if you guys click off the video after that moment, I don't blame you. This one, 20% damage to bleeding enemies. It's really nice. The main reason why I had to take both of these, though, you don't get the cooldown to your shouts unless you meet the secondary requirement, which is you gotta have 40 strength within this little area of effect, so to speak. 40 strength is a lot because these little nodes only give you 5. So 5, 5, 5, 5. That's only 20. Well, these nodes right here give you 10, so I had to grab both of them in order to make it work. Plus, you know, getting a little bit of extra damage reduction is not too bad. We went over here, grabbed the Blood Rage, and now we're working on our next board. This one is the Warbringer board. I'm probably not going to be grabbing the Warbringer legendary node, but I will be going down here and grabbing the Hungering Fury. And, of course, the Glyph. This is where Exploit's going to go. And for our technique slot, we're using the two-handed technique. 20% extra direct damage when you deal... let's just read it. 20% of direct damage you deal is inflicted as bleeding damage over 5 seconds. But the second one, this is why we got to use the sword. This is why it's nice. You deal 30% increased bleeding damage for 5 seconds after killing an enemy. It's pretty good. So, to bring it all back together, that is the entire build. So stay tuned. I will try and have a link for the next video that we do be uploaded. I'll probably be uploading these both around the same time. I'm about to run the dungeon right now, so wish me luck. Anyway, you guys have yourself a good one. You take care. Cheers.